Where were you 17 years ago? What were you doing 17 years ago? I mean, 17 years ago, I was 8 years old. Actually, Jesus. No, I was 9. So here's the problem. You get old, you get Alzheimer's. Fuck it. 1993, 9 years old. I was in the 3rd grade at that particular moment. And that was the last time that we saw an album by this particular band that I'm about to review today. That's the band Atheist. It was their album Elements, which was really considered to be kind of the red-haired stepchild of the 3 albums that they did release, those being Elements, Piece of Time, and Unquestionable Presence. And the reason why is actually kind of easy to tell, considering this is an album that was conceived after the band had broken up once for a period of about a year, and reformed to record merely to fulfill contractual agreements and arrangements. So you can definitely see why the band sort of distances themselves from this particular work. But they're back! Yeah, Atheist, they're long-running legends in the thrash and death metal department, basically because you have this technical side to them, you have this jazz fusion side, you have this kind of Latin side to them. There's a lot of different little faces to this band, and so 17 years, it's kind of like with Cynic, man. It's kind of like whenever Cynic released their album back in 2008, their comeback album in about the same period of time, where it was just, it's an event. I mean, Atheist is back. You know, shout to the high heavens. Well, the first thing I want to say to you is this. We all know that the album's name is Jupiter. If you didn't know that, you read it in the description of this video already, so you know. What you may not know is that they're looking for a bassist. They parted ways with their bassist back in August. This was, of course, after the album was, for the most part, complete, so it did not affect the recordings. So are you a bassist? Do you want to play bass with Atheist? Yeah, you wanna. Anyways, it's time to finally talk Jupiter. It's time for me to stop bastardizing this video with this awesome little intro that I just decided to pull out of my ass. Jupiter is, of course, Atheist's first album in 17 years, and this is one of those occasions where, you know, there's going to be trumpets flaring, there's going to be, you know, rice on the ground. It's going to be like a wedding day, so to speak, for Italians who are going to rush out and get this album if they're able to find it. Now, Jupiter is a very, very quick little album. It's the very first thing that I will comment on. It's 8 tracks long. It's 32 minutes. And let me tell you, this really reminds me a lot of the old days. This is one of those albums where this is a band that is not using time, not using, you know, the 50 to 60 minutes worth of tape space in order to really pack in as many songs and as many frivolous, you know, ideas into an album as they possibly can. This is instead a band and an album that is very tactfully placed. The one thing that I will say about this is that this has also been updated. And what I mean by updated is the fact that the production is a lot more spot on than you probably remember hearing back in the early 1990s whenever their first albums were being recorded and released. Now, this is attributed, of course, to the modern-day recording technology that we have. They're not going to go back to using nearly 20-year-old predated equipment in order to get their album released, so this is something that was bound to happen. The result, however, is a very different and unique feel. It's something that's very strange, something that the first time that you listen to this album is going to be the first thing that you notice. It's going to be it's going to take a little bit of time, perhaps, to adjust your ears to this after cycling their first 3 records in your collection for, right now, nearly 2 decades, if you're old enough to have owned the first 3 records. This is a good record, I gotta say. It's definitely a good comeback record. There are some very good songs on it, like Folk King Christ. This was a song that I really like a lot. All of the traditional staples are there. You're not seeing quite as much of the just ridiculous, over-the-top hardcore shredding, but from what you hear and what you get, wow, let me tell you. They can still play at a breakneck pace. They still have a lot of amazing technical aspects to them. This is a band that still is just as tight as they were 17 years ago, and that's a total that's what she said statement, but hey, you're the one that's making that one, not me. This is a very, very tight band, as I said just a couple of moments ago, and it's something that will only show even more with this added help of production. This is something that really aids the band a great deal. This is a short affair, so this also means that perhaps there's a lot left unsaid, so to speak. A lot of fans may take a listen to this and think 32 minutes is just not enough. This might be something that really, you know, keeps people from really enjoying this album because it's very short. It's not exactly a very lengthy affair. However, the music on it is very well placed. It's very well done. The updated production, as I said, is very tasteful. It's just something that takes a little bit of getting used to. The vocals are still clean, and by clean I do not mean clean in the clean sense. I mean they're very crisp, very easy to distinguish from the remaining elements of the music. And it is all done very well. There's nothing about this record that you can really complain about. And the really cool thing about these 8-track affairs like this is that more often than not, whenever the fewer things that you do, sometimes the better that it is, because there's not as much for a reviewer or a listener to really complain about, because there's just not that much of material to really go by. This is definitely an album that may fall under that category, and this may make a lot of people a little bit uneasy, maybe make them a little wary, or kind of, you know, distance themselves a little bit to it, but not for me. For me, this was an album that definitely speaks very well to what Atheist has been able to do within their career, and the fact that they're able to do it after 17 years, after numerous lineup shifts, after the one main guitar player having carpal tunnel and a lot of other conditions with his hands, where he's now reduced to mainly just singing, not really playing all that much. You know, they still did a whole heck of a lot with this particular studio effort. These are 8 tracks that are jam-packed with notes from second number 1 to the very last second of the track. There's just no empty space. This is definitely a band that is very poised. So, let's review the review. Let's do the rundown. Let's make sure that people know exactly what I'm saying here. For 1, this is their first album in 17 years. 2, they need a bassist. Are you a bassist? Hey, how you doing? Maybe Atheist will be your next gig. Who knows? Probably not, but hey, it's nice to dream. Dream it in that little head of yours. Let it swim around a little bit. And number 3, Jupiter is a very, very good album. It's an extremely good comeback record, and I think that this is going to be an album that's going to be on a lot of people's minds for the next couple of months and in the coming years. I think that this is going to be a record where Jupiter is a nice place to kind of kick back off their career. However, the next record is going to be kind of the definition point. It's going to be where Atheist really gets to show their true colors, and maybe they're going to be willing to expand that realm a little bit more. Go from 8 tracks at 32 minutes and maybe 10 tracks in like 45 or 50 minutes. Maybe give the listener a little more, maybe experiment around a little bit more. Maybe take that jazz fusion and that Latin vibe that I mentioned at the head of this review and spark around with it a little bit more. Something that you don't hear nearly enough on this particular record, with the exception of the very Latin drums. If you have a very good ear, even with this production, sometimes it can be very difficult to hear, but even with a very trained ear, you can hear the Latin drums in the background. You can hear the cymbals. You can hear it. It's just really cool. It's something that you really got to experience, and you will understand why people mention this so very adamantly about their music, and not just stick with the jazz fusion and with the extreme technicality. So, Jupiter, Atheist, I think this is going to be an album that's going to definitely be remembered. Is it going to be one that's going to be right at the top of the list? Is it going to be something that's going to make the top 20? That really is going to remain to be seen. And that's not because this is a bad record, ladies and gentlemen. It's just because at this particular moment, it's not shown me enough. It's not shown me the light yet. But in 2 months, whenever I'm doing this list, maybe it will.